When you win, who gets to decide what the victory means? Do you ever get the feeling that sometimes when you finally claw your way to the edge of a new beginning, the world is already whispering behind your back, ready to write your ending for you? What if, right before the real game begins, your greatest enemy isn't the person across from you, but the voices all around? The weeks leading up to the Chicago Open passed in a blur of early mornings and midnight games. Olivia and Alexander met in hidden corners of the city, greasy spoons on Roosevelt, empty boardrooms after hours, park benches where the cold bit through their coats. They played until the sun came up or the janitor's keys jingled in the hallway. Chess was no longer just a pastime. It was the air between them, dense with meaning, heavy with the weight of second chances. For Alexander, the ritual of setting up battered plastic pieces with his former maid was becoming the most important part of his day. He started showing up to meetings late, delegating high-stakes calls, skipping the kind of corporate networking that once gave him life. It wasn't about escaping his world, but about chasing something real, something he'd lost a long time ago, before money and power started substituting for real connection. For Olivia, the games were a form of reclamation. Each pawn pushed forward was a step back toward herself, the girl she once was, the girl who had believed that brilliance alone could set you free. Her hands moved with confidence and calculation, but her heart still flickered with doubt. Could she win again, in public, with all the eyes in the world now watching for her to fall? Could she do it without losing the fragile piece of peace she'd found? As news of the chess initiative spread, so did the rumors. A blurry photo surfaced on a tech blog. The CEO and the janitor, hunched over a chessboard in a corner cafe, both so focused they didn't notice the camera flash. Zenithra's progressive leadership, or a PR gimmick, the headline sneered. Office whispers turned sharp. Emails buzzed with thinly veiled resentment. Olivia found a note stuffed in her locker. Know your place. The words were printed in block capitals, the kind of threat that simmers, then explodes at the worst time. She tried to brush it off. That night at the rec center, coaching her kids, her patience was short and her tone was sharp. The youngest, Mia, misplayed a simple rook check and Olivia snapped, something she'd never done before. After practice, she sat in the empty gym, fists clenched, blinking back angry tears. She felt seen in all the wrong ways. Alexander, who had started appearing at the center more and more, waited until the kids had gone to approach. He didn't speak, just sat beside her on the cold bleachers, his presence gentle, his eyes searching. You missed our match this morning, he finally said. I needed time, she replied. He hesitated. Tell me what happened. She didn't look at him. Doesn't matter. He pressed softly. People only throw rocks at things that shine, Olivia. She looked up, defiant, her voice breaking just a little. You think this is about shining? You walk into any room and the world listens. Me? I have to shout just to be heard, and now every move I make feels like a risk. For me, for my kids, for every girl watching. He didn't have an answer, but he stayed until she was ready to go. The tournament loomed. They trained harder, matching each other's intensity, pushing past exhaustion. The games grew less about winning, more about understanding, her sacrifices sharper, his endgames more creative. Their banter, once stilted, grew playful and direct. 3 days before the Chicago Open, Alexander walked into the lounge to find her already there, setting up the board. He smiled. You're early. She returned the smile, rare and real. You're predictable. He looked at the battered chess set between them. Are you ready? She hesitated. I don't know if I'll ever be, but I'm going to play anyway. The day of the tournament arrived with wind and cold rain. The venue was a hotel ballroom in the Loop. Fluorescent lights, long rows of folding tables, the air thick with nerves and old carpet dust. Olivia, wearing the same sneakers she cleaned floors in, pinned her competitor badge to her collar and stepped into a world that had long ago told her she didn't belong. Alexander, in a gray hoodie and jeans, nodded at her from across the room. He didn't come near. They had agreed. No distractions, no hand-holding. Her first opponent was a well-dressed club player, smirking as he offered patronizing advice between moves. She dismantled him in 24 turns, never breaking eye contact. Her next round was against a teenage prodigy, reckless and fast. Olivia slowed the tempo, built a fortress, and watched the clock bleed out as the prodigy panicked. By the end of the first day, she was undefeated. The whispers followed her through the crowd. Is that the janitor from Zenithra? She's not really self-made. Pierce is backing her. It's all for the company's image. She'll crack in the semis. Olivia kept her head high, but every word stung. She remembered her mother's voice. Let them talk. You're not here for them. But it was hard carrying the weight of being a symbol when all you wanted was to be a player. After her last match of the day, she wandered to the hotel lobby, clutching her bag like a shield. Alexander was there, leaning against a column. You looked good out there, he said. She laughed, hollow. I felt like I was walking a tightrope over a pit of alligators. He shrugged. I'm not sure which of us they want to see fall more. They sat together in silence for a moment, two outsiders hiding from their own stories. She broke it. If I win tomorrow, will you clap? Loud enough to embarrass myself, he promised. The next morning, the ballroom buzzed with anticipation. Cameras, local reporters, a smattering of corporate types hoping for a viral underdog story. Olivia's semifinal opponent was a former state champion, a man in an expensive suit who, when he shook her hand, squeezed just a bit too hard. He played dirty, quick attacks, constant chatter, comments about her interesting background. She ignored him, let the board do the talking. On move 20, she sacrificed her bishop. Risky, bold. He smirked, thinking she'd blundered. 3 moves later, his jaw dropped. Her pawn promotion was inevitable. He toppled his king in disbelief. A roar of applause swept the room, not polite but genuine. Alexander across the hall grinned wider than she'd ever seen. He had lost his own semi-final to a Latvian grandmaster, but didn't seem to care. The finals came that evening. The ballroom felt too bright, too small. Olivia's opponent was a local favorite. Quick, creative, the kind of player who seemed born for the spotlight. She sat down, hands steady, heart pounding. The match was brutal. Every exchange felt personal. Every piece taken was a reminder of how much she'd had to lose to sit at this table. The crowd leaned in, phones ready, eyes hungry. She played not for glory, but for every invisible girl in every forgotten hallway. 40 moves in, she saw the winning combination. A queen sacrifice followed by a subtle knight check. Her opponent stared, stunned, then slowly offered his hand. The room exploded. Olivia stood up, lightheaded. She had done it. Won not just a trophy, but a measure of respect that no one could take away. Alexander was first to reach her. He clapped, loud and proud, the rest of the crowd following, until the applause felt like it would shake the ceiling loose. For a moment, all the doubts, all the whispered threats, faded into the echo of victory. But as she stood under the harsh ballroom lights, surrounded by new admirers and old skeptics, Olivia felt something deeper than pride. A fierce, quiet resolve that the real work was only just beginning. Is the end of one game the beginning of something greater? What do you do after you've won the thing everyone said you couldn't? How do you carry the weight of being the proof that the impossible is possible? And what if, after all the applause has faded, you discover the most important battles are still to come? The days after Olivia's victory unfolded in a whirl of ceremonies, interviews, invitations. The trophy, a block of crystal etched with her name, felt heavier than expected. She found herself in boardrooms with city leaders and foundation heads. Her story splashed across websites and news feeds. From Maid to Mastermind, Olivia Jones stuns Chicago. The attention was flattering but exhausting. At the post-tournament banquet, the city's mayor handed her a certificate. A major sponsor offered to fly her out for a national circuit. The governor himself shook her hand, grinning for the cameras. You're an inspiration, Ms. Jones. We'd love for you to tour schools, tell your story. She smiled, polite but tired. You mean you want to use me to show your policies work? He laughed it off, but she saw the discomfort flicker in his eyes. After the speeches, Alexander found her at the edge of the ballroom, staring at her name on the plaque as if it belonged to someone else. Are you all right? He asked, soft. She exhaled. I thought this would feel like freedom. It feels more like a cage, just lined with velvet. They slipped out together, leaving the party and the cameras behind. Outside, the city was quiet. They walked along the river, the lights reflecting off the water in trembling gold and silver. I used to walk this way after shifts, Olivia murmured, just to remember I was still real. They stopped on a bridge. You are more real than anyone I know, Alexander said. She shook her head. You know what scares me? Not that they'll forget me, that they'll make me a symbol and stop listening to anyone else. He was silent for a moment. Then don't let them. Make them see the next Olivia Jones before she disappears. He reached into his coat and handed her a small box. Inside was a carved wooden queen, dark and heavy. The base was engraved. Every move you made mattered. Olivia turned it in her hand, a slow smile breaking through. You kept it. You kept me honest, he replied. In the weeks that followed, Olivia accepted the offer to head the new youth chess initiative. She moved into a small, sunlit office at the recreation center. She hired old rivals and new friends. Every Saturday, she led a swarm of kids, most from places like where she'd started, through tournaments, tactics drills, and wild games full of laughter. Alexander visited often, never during instruction, always bearing coffee or new boards, staying quietly in the background. The board at Zenithra changed too. Executives found their old arrogance less welcome. New conversations took root, about merit, about chance, about the power of overlooked brilliance. One afternoon after the citywide invitational, the gymnasium was filled with cheers as Olivia's students took home more medals than anyone expected. As the MC called her to the stage, she hesitated, but the children's voices pulled her forward. She spoke simply, honestly. I was once the girl nobody saw. Now I see all of you, and I know that if you keep moving forward, one step at a time, you can cross the whole board. Thunderous applause followed her off stage. Back in her office, as the sun set over the city, she placed the wooden queen beside a single battered pawn, the first piece she'd ever kept as her own. Later, Alexander came to say goodbye. Do you ever regret it? He asked. Taking that game? She looked at him, smile bright and unwavering. Number, I only regret the days I thought I didn't deserve to sit at the board. The city pulsed outside, busy, unknowing. But in a quiet office above a noisy gym, the smartest mind in the room was exactly where she belonged. And the game at last was hers to define. What if the smartest mind in the room was the one you never noticed? Have you ever wondered how many lives slip through your hands every day without you ever realizing it? How many stories you dismiss as background, never suspecting that the real game changer could be sweeping the floor right behind you? That's what Alexander Pierce, CEO of Zenithra Corp., one of Chicago's fastest-rising tech giants, thought right up until the night the company's annual Innovation and Vision Gala became the stage for a checkmate no one saw coming. It began, as these stories so often do, with laughter. The executive lounge was alive with the low hum of privilege. Crystal glasses, expensive suits, the city sparkling beneath floor-to-ceiling windows. Alexander stood at the center of it all, hosting as always, the kind of host who believed every room bent around him. He was mid-story, dazzling the board with another anecdote from his Ivy League years when he noticed her. The maid in the faded black uniform, name tag peeling at the corners, pushing a cleaning cart with a quiet dignity. Her name was Olivia Jones, just Liv on her badge, though no one ever bothered to look that closely. The new HR director, eager to impress, made a show of shooing Liv out of the room. Sorry, Ms. Jones, we're in the middle of something important. But Alexander, fueled by whiskey and a craving for approval, waved her back in with a theatrical sweep. Wait, come on, let her play. We could use some entertainment. His words hung in the air, meant as a joke, but cutting sharper than he realized. Laughter ricocheted across the room. Someone from legal grinned. The CFO raised an eyebrow. The only person who didn't laugh was Liv. She paused, hands tucked into her apron pockets, eyes as steady as the lake after rain. She knows how to move the pieces, right? Whispered a junior exec, stifling a smirk. Liv stepped forward, gaze fixed on the chessboard in the lounge's center. One of Alexander's proudest possessions, an antique Staunton, set he'd bought after his first big bonus. I'll take black, she said, voice even. Alexander smirked. Feeling brave, are we? The room tittered. He reset the board, his movements crisp, rehearsed. He'd played charity tournaments after all, always white, always against easy marks. Liv sat. No bravado, no apology. She placed the black king between her fingers, and the world seemed to shrink to 64 squares. Alexander's first moves were aggressive. King's pawn forward, quick development, a flashy opening. Liv responded with a calm precision, her hands moving like she'd done this 1,000 times. 5 moves in, the energy in the room changed. 10 moves, Alexander's jaw tightened. 15 moves, a silence grew so thick you could taste it. On the 19th move, Liv's knight took his queen with surgical elegance. At 23, she cornered his king. Checkmate. The laughter had died long before the end. Liv stood, tucked the chair in, and said, "Thank you for the game, Mr. Pierce. I'll finish cleaning now." She wheeled her cart away as if nothing had happened. But something had. Alexander sat motionless. He didn't hear the awkward coughs, the quick steps as executives scattered. He didn't notice when his bourbon was replaced with water or when the lounge slowly emptied. He just stared at the board, the pieces frozen in the aftermath of his humiliation. The rest of the night blurred. Someone offered to pack up the chessboard. He ignored them. The golden glass of his penthouse felt suddenly cold. He Googled her name, Olivia Jones chess. Nothing. No social profiles, no photos. He scoured local news, high school tournament archives, even the U.S. Chess Federation. No Olivia Jones matching her description. Was she a ghost or just someone the world had let disappear? By sunrise, he was haunted, not by defeat, but by the feeling that he had missed something monumental. That day he went to work, eyes gritty with sleeplessness, snapping at his assistant, canceling investor calls, riding the service elevator to the maintenance level, a place he'd never stepped foot in. The janitors he passed looked confused. He found the cleaning log, Olivia Jones. No phone, no address, just shift hours. He almost called HR, but stopped. He didn't want her in trouble. For 2 days he waited. On the third, just before midnight, the squeak of a cart and a shadow in the doorway. "Liv." He stood. "I didn't mean to embarrass you," he blurted. She shrugged, wiping a counter. "You didn't. You asked for a game, I gave you one." He watched her work, then, without thinking, asked, "Play again?" "Just us. No audience." She hesitated, then sat. "If you play the Sicilian defense again, I'm walking out." A rare smile crossed his face. They played. This time, no lightning attacks. She played slow, positional, coaxing his weaknesses into the open. 38 moves. Stalemate. "You're good," he said. She shrugged. "I was once, before life happened." "Where'd you learn?" "My father. He taught me in the parks, back when all he had was time. After he died, there wasn't much point. Hospitals and bills don't care about checkmates." Alexander didn't know what to say. He only knew he wanted to play her again. Every night for 2 weeks he waited. Sometimes she played. Sometimes she just cleaned. They spoke little, but in the rhythm of their moves, something changed. He brought books. She brought a battered chess clock from home. He tried his favorite traps. She dismantled them with casual grace. But the more he learned about chess, the less he understood about her. And the more he watched her navigate a world built to keep her invisible, the more he questioned his own place in it. What happens when the joke is on the room? Word spread, as it always does. The CEO and the maid playing chess after hours. Some found it amusing. Others saw threat. In the corridors of Zenithra, rumors breed quickly. "Did you hear? Pierce is teaching the janitor to play chess. He's been staying late. What's that about? She's got something on him. Watch, HR will get involved." For Liv, the shift was almost physical. Conversation stopped when she entered a room. Elevators grew colder. Jokes turned to side eyes and then to silence. She tried to ignore it. She'd survived eviction, hunger, the quiet ache of dreams slipping away. But this, the suspicion, the corporate judgment, felt different. Like being forced to play a game where the rules changed every time she made a move. One night after yet another match, another draw, Liv packed up fast. "You're in a hurry," Alexander observed, carefully placing his king in its box. "Other floors need cleaning," she said, eyes on her mop. "You're upset." "No." He watched her, searching for a crack in her armor. She finally looked at him, voice low. You get to win even when you're misunderstood. I don't. If people think I'm getting favors, I lose more than a game. He nodded, unable to argue. The next evening, she found a note folded under the chessboard. If you'd rather not see me, I'll stay out of sight. I'll leave one move each night. For 5 days, he left his move on the board. She responded, silent but precise, countering each without leaving a word. For the first time, chess was a conversation without voices, just two minds locked in understanding. But HR wasn't far behind. A summons appeared in her locker, her presence requested, for a quick chat. The HR manager, smiling too widely, closed the glass door and perched on the desk. We've had questions, Olivia, about your friendship with Mr. Pierce. She stayed calm. I clean floors. Sometimes I play chess with the CEO. After hours, no pay, no contracts. You must understand how this looks for the company. Appearance is a privilege. Not everyone gets it. HR blinked, thrown off by her composure. You're not in trouble. We just want to make sure everything's above board. Is this disciplinary? No, just a conversation. Then I have floors to clean. That night she returned to find a surprise on the board. A queen sacrifice. Bold, desperate, her favorite move from old tournaments. She smiled, played her answer, and left her first note. Next time, watch the diagonal 3 moves ahead. The next morning, Alexander called an emergency board meeting. Instead of profits or tech launches, he presented a memo. Southside STEM and Chess Initiative. The board scoffed. A chess program? Why now? He stared them down. Genius doesn't always wear a suit. Sometimes it holds a mop. After heated debate, the project was approved. Barely. 3 days later, Liv found herself at the rundown rec center on the south side, teaching a group of kids. Alexander watched quietly from the doorway. You followed me? She asked after class. I heard you coach here. I wanted to see. She was skeptical. You stalk all your opponents? He smiled. Only the ones who teach me something new. He handed her a flyer for the upcoming Chicago Open. Play, you belong on that stage. I'm done competing, she said flatly. You train every time you play me? That's not nothing. She read the flyer. I'll consider it, but only if we practice as equals. No fancy lounges, no special treatment. He nodded. If I win, you explain your best sacrifice. If you win, I'll do whatever you say. That night, he swapped out the fancy chessboard for a battered plastic set, the kind you'd find in any rec center. Liv grinned when she saw it. They played in silence. He played harder than ever, and she met every move with her signature patience. For the first time, Alexander realized he wasn't just playing against her, he was learning from her. The rules of his world began to shift, one game at a time.